when you're starting to think about wanting to eat better is to think about what you're adding in. So I think the 80-20 rule is a good way to be. And I think also food is pleasure. So many of us are on these blood sugar level roller coasters, and that is a big problem for people. And it's really, really hard. I think once you're on it, to get off it. I would never promote the drug. I hope you'd never see me in 2 years being their ambassador.
Hello, Madeleine. It is amazing to have you on. You are the great founder of the Glow Space, along with an author of multiple different books, all around food and wellness. And I know that you are a pro, and I think my audience are going to love what you're going to have to share today. So for anyone who doesn't know you, what's the backstory? What can they how would you describe yourself?
So I'm a nutritionist. I'm also a yoga teacher, and I guess I'm on a mission to help people feel their best through eating well, moving daily, looking after their mindset. And I share lots of recipes and wellness tips. And as you said, also launched an online platform called the Glow Space, which has movement, meditation and meal plans just to kind of help people bring wellness into their homes.
Amazing. And I think now more than ever, post-COVID, people are really thinking about that as an aspect of living the best version of their lives. What was the reason for you kind of deciding to kind of focus on that as an area of development for yourself?
Well, it happened quite a long time ago. It was about 12, 13 years ago. So I went to uni in Australia, in Sydney. And I had really bad digestive problems, and I went to see my GP, and she diagnosed me with IBS. Yeah. And I didn't really know what that was, and it wasn't something that was really spoken about. But I started to kind of think about what I was eating, and I went to see this naturopath, and she completely changed my life. I was eating what I thought was good, like diet drinks, diet yogurts, diet bars, because that was that time, 15 years ago, it was all about low fat diet kind of food. And she put me on like more of a whole food diet, eating proper quality proteins, introducing healthy fats into my life, eating much more fruits and vegetables, getting me into the kitchen and cooking. And it made me feel so good. And it really not only kind of helped me with my digestive problems, but suddenly like my skin looked better. I had more energy. The brain fog went. I felt like I could focus, and I woke up and I felt good every day. And you get used to feeling bad. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? You're just like, oh, another day. And then you start feeling good and you're like, this is amazing. And I ended up eating in this cafe so much, they gave me a job. And it was this amazing cafe because it was attached to a gym. And all the men worked out topless. So it was like a really great place to work. And I had no idea what I was going to do with my life. I was kind of in my last year of uni, and I just started falling in love with nutrition, cooking. So a friend of mine said, why don't you set up a food blog? And I did. And that was, 11 years ago. And I didn't, I always knew I wanted to make a career of it. But obviously, at that time, there was no sort of pathway to it. Yeah. So I moved to France for a little while, and then I moved back to London and started doing supper clubs in London. And that's where I kind of really started seeing that there was an appetite and an interest. And I think there was like a new movement away from kind of like talking about dieting or deprivation and about abundance. My philosophy has always been about crowd in rather than cut out. Yeah. Because I think mindset is everything when it comes to health. And I think the minute you say to yourself, I'm not going to eat chocolate, I'm not going to eat pizza, or whatever the foods are that you don't want to eat, you want them more. You literally are like craving them. So I think the best thing to do when you're starting to think about wanting to eat better is to think about what you're adding in. So being like, I'm going to add in protein to my breakfast, or I'm going to add in 2 types of vegetables to my lunch. And that, I think, makes such a difference. So I've always tried to promote nutrition and wellness in a positive way, about kind of crowding in, not cutting out, looking after yourself in a more holistic way. And that's kind of what I've been trying to do. Yeah.
Taking care of myself is a non-negotiable as a mother who's trying to keep it together and run a business. It means that I can show up for myself, my family, and my work. The simplest way to look after myself from the inside out is by taking the Biotic by Heights. Also, real talk, who knew it was so difficult to get your hands on a good probiotic? There are so many problems with the probiotic market. Either they don't work, they die before they reach your gut, or they're not tested. These are all non-negotiables. I did my homework and I found one that ticks all the boxes. Developed by experts? Check. Acid resistant strains? Checked. Delayed release capsules to get that where it needs to go to? Check. In fact, it's proven to deliver 50 times more bacteria alive and active to the colon than other tested probiotics. It's the most effective format compared to a standard capsule, the leading liquid probiotic, and a popular green supplement. And only one capsule a day for all the benefits. Check. Bonus, it also contains zinc, which is an essential for immunity and brain health. And I love that it's vegan, non-GMO, and requires no refrigeration. I'm always on the go, so it's easy to pop it in my bag and take it with me so I don't forget. It's become my daily wellness ritual, and I really feel the difference it's made in my health. Get back to feeling like yourself again with only a capsule a day for your body and your mind. Experience it for yourself using my code Patricia15 for 15% off the first month of a subscription. You owe it to yourself to feel your best. Get these and thank me later. Diet culture has really changed. I think a lot of people are aware of the badness around, the badness is that even English, but the dangers around, diet foods and diet supplements and all of these kind of ingredients that aren't great for you. However, there has been a move to kind of diet culture, but it's covered in a way of the wellness thing. So people are eating, quite restricted, but they're not calling it dieting. What's your take on that?
It's such a hard one, isn't it? Because I think you go in with the best intentions, right? You're trying to do it to make yourself feel better. But you're right, it can be that, if you're cutting out lots of different food groups, that's probably not that good for you because we need all the different kind of macros and micronutrients. So I don't know if there's like a black and white answer to this, sadly. We always like black and white answers. I think I guess you've got to ask yourself when you're doing whatever you're doing, if it's working for you, if you feel good, if you still feel confident to go out and eat with your friends, to go around to your parents' house, to still live a full life, then maybe it's okay and that you are getting that balance of nutrients. But I think which often happens when you get so obsessive that you're not able to eat out or have fun or see things, or it's actually damaging, it's causing more pain than it is pleasure, then that's probably not a good place to be. Because I think people can get a bit over, like, they get excited about it, it comes in a good intention, but then it kind of overconsumes their life. So I think the 80-20 rule is a good way to be. And I think also food is pleasure, like it's fuel, but it is also pleasure, and there's a lot of emotions attached to it as well. So we have to kind of bear that in mind with it. But it's a complicated one, but I think you only know yourself and you know what works for yourself. And I think we're changing as well. Like, as you get older, you need different things. As your lifestyle changes, you do different things. So you've got to kind of keep adjusting. But I always say, be your own detective, like find out what works for you and then stick at it, see it out, and then keep reassessing as you go along.
Amazing. So taking it back to your personal journey, you went to the GP and you found out that you had IBS.
Yes.
And what kind of were those symptoms that you were feeling that made you feel really uncomfortable, if you don't mind sharing?
No.
And then you decided to go down the route of a naturopath. Why did you choose that as a route?
So I had really bad bloating. I felt like I was bloated all the time. I always felt like I had a lot of like brain fog. I didn't feel like I was concentrating. It was like I was in the room, but I was like not quite hearing things. Was tired all the time. my hair was like breaking all the time. I was bleaching it all the time, so that probably doesn't help too. And just didn't feel good. And I was 21. I was like, this should be my prime.
Wow.
This should be like when I'm like out, able, doing things. I shouldn't be feeling this way. I think the reason I went down the natural path, probably just due to how I was brought up. I never had paracetamol, ibuprofen.
Okay.
We were if you feel ill, go to sleep, have a glass of water kind of family.
Right. Okay.
So I think inherently in me was understanding that I could do this in a more holistic way. And I think it was probably also Australia, like it is a very and Sydney especially, quite a health conscious, natural, open-minded, forward-thinking kind of place that I was in, and a naturopath was quite a normal thing to see over there at that time.
Wow.
And yeah, I guess it was just one of those things where it just slotted into place.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful for having had access and that opening this completely new chapter for me. And I remember coming back to London and like wearing gym gear, and people would be like, what? Are you going to the gym? And I'd be like, no. But that was like, so normal over in Sydney, whereas now obviously it's really normal here now to wear gym gear. But I think I took so many things of their like lifestyle, their attitude to life, the way they cook, the way they live, and it really changed me, and I kind of wanted to like bring that back and spread it on to everyone else.
Understood. I can imagine as a Brit, there is a little skepticism around, say, like naturopaths and osteopaths and acupuncture as sources of medicine or treatment for problems, when you can go to the GP and get some pills, and the pharmaceutical industry have always got something for us. But I think more and more people are recognizing, maybe, I'm not going to say the damage, but knowing that there are alternative options that are more in tune with our bodies, our natural rhythm and nature. So when you, you were dealing with the naturopath, what was their kind of course of treatment for you?
It was really just about changing what I was eating. I think she probably looked at my diet and was like, this is absolutely not great. So I think she probably the big thing that I learned from it is about healthy fat. So I think I was in that mindset that fat was bad, don't eat any fat, it will kill you. Like that was the mindset of it.
Crazy thing.
I know, but it really was everywhere, right, in the media at the time. So I think introducing lots of nuts and seeds into my diet, lots of like healthy fats like olive oil, avocados, started getting on the coconut oil. And that really helped me, because I think our brain is literally made of fat. It's mostly made up of fat. And I think the minute I started eating those fats, I just felt so much better. And I think it sounds so simple, but one of my biggest motivations is feeling good.
100%.
And like when I show up, meditate, eat well, move my body, I'm kind to myself, I feel good. And when I don't, which sometimes happens, I don't feel good. It's literally so stupidly simple. And I think that's what kind of motivates me, because I feel like I get a lot of questions being like, how do you motivate yourself to eat well every day? And it really is simple as, I know what it feels like to feel rubbish. I know what it feels like to feel good. And I'm going to choose feeling good majority of the time.
I read a book, it's called Gut, right? And it actually talks about the brain's connection to the gut, and like well-being in your mental state and everything being connected to what's going on in your stomach in that region. Is that something that you felt a form of connection to, what you were eating, your diet, the IBS was all having an impact? Because you talked about the brain fog and feeling tired, and that was all connected basically to what you were eating.
100%. So it's the gut brain axis. And, there's studies shown with IBS patients where they'll take one group and they'll put them on something called the low Fodmap diet. It's like a very, very restrictive diet for helping with IBS. And then they take the exact same group and they put them through 12 weeks of hatha yoga, so a gentle yoga. And they came up with the exact same recovery results. So it kind of shows that sure, diet can help, but doing some form of mindfulness movement to manage your stress symptoms has the exact same effect that food does on you, on your IBS symptoms.
Let's explain that. Let's take that back.
Sorry, did I not explain it very well?
No, I know, I love it. I'm confused and surprised that what you're saying is that in that test,
yes,
in that research, they put them on a certain diet.
So one person went on a diet, the other people did yoga 3 times a week, and they came out having the same reduced symptoms. So what the point is yes, we can focus on diet a lot with digestive problems, but your mental health, your movement has exactly the same validity, like result, can produce the exact same amount of results and help in the same way. So when I was going through what in Sydney, I also got into yoga at the time. I'd kind of done it during my A-levels to manage. My mum sort of took me once a week, and I really got into it when I was in Sydney. And I did this program called 40 Days and 40 Nights of yoga and meditation. And I never meditated before. I didn't know what it was at all. And we would do these little weekly catch-ups. So we would go there, we'd sit in a circle, very un-British.
Love it.
Hold hands, stare into each other's eyes.
Yeah.
And really interestingly, so it was all about watching your mind and being conscious of your thoughts, which is a big part of mindfulness, meditation. And one of the things that the teacher said was, this week, look at what tapes you play in your head. So we all play a tape in our head, and we've got many different ones. It might be the money tape. When I am rich, I will buy this, 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 and this, or I'll be happy. Or the love tape. When I finally meet the one, everything will be blah, 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 blah. So he was like, go away and look at what tapes you're playing. And I was like, I don't think I play any tapes. And what I realised is I played a victim tape. And I think that a lot of women can relate to this, which is, it sounds really dark, but like something will happen to me and then a man will save me.
Oh.
So I'll be like, this is like really going deep into my intimate thoughts, but I would like be walking down the street and I'd be like, I'll get hit by a bus. And then this sexy doctor will like save me and be fine. And of course I don't want to get hit by the bus, and of course I don't want any of these bad things to happen to me, like, because they're almost like not, they're like right at the back of their mind. They're not like right at the front, they're just like playing. But obviously through Disney, that's what we were taught. We were taught to be like these women that like were a bit kind of like whimsical, and bad things were happening to them, and then this big like man came in and swooped them off. And that's been like Disney, it's been, you know, all the rom-coms that we've ever watched. And I remember being like, oh my God, this is awful. Like, wow. I don't want to be that person. Like, my mum has not brought me up to be that kind of woman. And I remember that moment being like, I'm going to be the hero in my story. And I think that really, really switched something in me where I was like, no, I'm not going to play these tapes and wait around for someone to like pick me, choose me. And I think that's what really kind of switched me into looking into my mental health, well-being, but also like taking action in my life and being like, okay, I'm gonna pursue my career and I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna focus on that, instead of being like, I'm just gonna wait around until someone like picks me or something like that. And I think, you know, you might be listening and being like, well, that's such a weird thing to go in your head. But I think we are all playing these 100%. Really, really weird stories in our head that we tell ourselves every single day, whether that's about who we are. And I think one of the most empowering things is that we can choose our thoughts. And that is like quite confronting, because then you're also choosing the other thoughts. But I think that's been something that I think about and talk to myself often, and has really, really helped me show up, really like myself and be the person I want to be.
Funnily, you speaking about that, I think my thought was the opposite. My thought is, no one's going to save you. And that's also, that could be a good thought or a toxic thought, but I've always thought, oh, no one's going to save me. So it's made me be someone who's quite aggressively careful about looking after myself. to a point of actually it could be detrimental. Maybe I didn't open the doors to other people as much as I should because I never believed that anybody could do anything for me and I had to do it myself.
Yeah.
But I can imagine that there are certain thoughts that are valuable for us and that we should have as things that we should keep focusing on and make us uniquely us and can be valuable in our lives as well. But I think a lot of people aren't necessarily aware of the power of their thoughts in their entire wellness space.
Totally, yeah. It's I think, like you said, all these thoughts are trying to keep us safe. Like that's a natural instinct. But do you want to keep playing them over and over? And like you said, could there be flexibility of, yes, I'm going to show up for myself, but also allow them into.
Yeah. Listening to you, it seems that you came from kind of a background of a little bit more, I'm going to say, well, it's not the most British background in terms of the things that you were into, the fact that you were going to yoga once a week and, a more holistic perspective. How do you think that how you were raised impacted the way that you think about your entire wellness journey?
Yeah, I think definitely. I think my parents are both from New Zealand. So I didn't have a British upbringing in that sense that I had grandparents and family around. I'd never made a proper cup of tea until I was about 22. So not that that's total British culture, but it is quite a big part of British 100%. Culture.
I make tea every day. Like from the age of 6, I've been making teas.
Yeah, I know. I realised that it's very important to make a cup of tea.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I think I guess I had, 2 Kiwi parents who were quite outdoorsy. My father's a psychiatrist, so I had this really amazing ongoing not therapy, but like an ability to have someone that's like, and how do you feel and what does this make you feel? And then I had this amazing mother who was very like practical and like get up and get it and do it. So I think I had this great balance of being in touch with my emotions, but also had this very go-getter energy. And I think I also had, and I didn't realise how lucky I was to have 2 parents that were like, whoever you want to be, will love you for that, go for it, and sort of allowed me to feel proud of the talents that I had. So I'm the middle child, my brother's older, my sister's younger, and my brother was like good at everything, like pick up a tennis racket, chess champion, just one of those naturally like well-rounded, gifted people. And I just wasn't. Like I was good at making friends, but I was just sort of like half-assed in the tennis courts, kind of moved a few chess pieces around and was done. But my mum was really amazing. I remember one day I came home from school and I was like 14. I was like, Mum, I'm just, I'm not on the A team at tennis. I'm not on the A, I'm set 2 in maths or whatever. I wasn't number 1 anywhere. And she was like, but Maddie, you're really good at smiling. Wow. And that will carry you through in life.
Yeah.
And she's not like got it wrong. Like it's not been, obviously there's been other things, but it is been amazing to have parents who are like, this is what you're great at, go after it, we'll love you for whatever you do. And I kind of thought that was the norm. And then you meet other people and other people's parents and you're like, oh, wow, I really hit the jackpot with them. So I'm very, very grateful for my parents. And I hope I continue that legacy on.
Amazing. And so you ended up studying nutrition, or is that what you actually studied?
No. So in Oz, you do it slightly differently. So I did an arts degree and you basically just do lots of different subjects in art. So I did like anthropology, history of art history, anthropology, like all different kind of, and then you major at the end. So I didn't do anything related to nutrition. I did my nutrition degree from 2014 to 2017. So I'd started up my food blog. I think I was just about to bring out my first book and I was like, I want to go deeper in this. I think I wanted to have a better understanding, a qualification behind myself. So I went to CNN, which is like the College of Naturopathic Nutrition. So I wanted to go somewhere holistic because that feels like me and what I'm kind of connected with. So I did that for 3 years. And yeah, it was tough. I think I'm a practical learner. I learn by doing. So sitting and studying in a more textbook way is really challenging for me.
Yeah.
And it's something I have to really like focus on and sit down. It's just not natural to me. But if you told me to like create something or make something, I'll like do it, done it. Like if you want dinner in 10 minutes, I'm your girl.
Okay.
But like sitting and reading a textbook, I've got to read it 5 times for it to go in. So yeah, I definitely found parts of it challenging, but yeah, I'm glad I did it.
I find that there is, in the world of social media now, there are a lot of people who give advice around food and diet and nutrition, some qualified, some unqualified, and often contradictory as well. How do people work out what information is right for them to take on board in a world where there is so much, especially about what they're putting into their bodies?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think, yeah, looking at qualifications is a good place to start. But in saying that, you can be a qualified dietitian and think that a vegan, no oil, only fruit and veg diet is the right thing, because you can read evidence to support these things. Do you know what I mean? That's the scary thing, is you can read a published peer-reviewed article that meat is helpful, is good for you, and you can read one that it's going to kill you. So it's a really complicated, like, you know, place to be. I think anyone that's extreme and cutting out like massive food groups or anything like that, it's not a great place to start. I think the one thing that most people can agree on, hopefully, apart from actually the meat-based diet, they're not into vegetables, is eating vegetables. So I kind of think if you're looking like, if you're thinking like a food pyramid or whatever, or actually let's look at balancing your plate. So I think that's a really nice place to start. So if you're looking at your lunch and your dinner, a bit easier to, so look at your plate. You want half of your plate to be your vegetables, ideally multiple different colours. And that's because we want that for our fibre, we want that for all our kind of micronutrients. We want that to help our digestion because that helps feed our microbiome. And then we want a quarter of it to be your protein source. And again, that's really individual. Protein's one, and that might be your tofu, your eggs, it might be your chicken, your fish, it could be lentils, your chickpeas. And then a quarter would be some form of carbohydrates, whether that's some rice, sweet potato, or it could be your lentils or chickpeas as well, could go in there. And then you want some healthy fats on there. And the reason you want fats is fats help you absorb a lot of those nutrients.
Right.
Because a lot of people are like, oh, a salad without dressing is better for you. But there are fat-soluble vitamins that actually will not go into your body without fat being present.
Explain that a little bit more, because I don't know what that means.
So, like, there's certain vitamins that if you ate them, they will not absorb into your body unless fat is present, because they're fat soluble. So there's water soluble and fat soluble. Obviously, water soluble really easy to eat and they will absorb into your body, but fat soluble means you need fat to be present to absorb it. Yeah. So it's always really good to have a bit of olive oil, you know, on your salad, some nuts and seeds, just to add in for that extra absorption of nutrients. So I think that's a really good place to start with balancing your plate. And then I, again, don't like to demonize food or say, don't ever eat this, because I think that's not realistic and not necessarily the way you want to live. So I think it's really good to instead just be thinking about adding in. And again, I think breakfast is a great place to start as well. Like, I think if you start the day, say, with some toast and honey and a coffee, as much as that's delicious, you're going to feel good for maybe like that first hour, and then you're going to crash. And that's your blood sugar level balance, which is another really important thing. So often if you're getting slumps at 11 a.m., 4 p.m., or like, you know, say 2 hours after you eat, that is often because you're spiking your blood sugar levels up really high and then they're dropping. And often that means that then you reach for another coffee, another chocolate bar, another muffin or something like that. And I get it, like we all get into that sort of cycle, but one of the best things you can do is start your day with some protein. And whether that's you're having 2 poached eggs with some rye bread and some veggies, or whether you're adding a scoop of protein powder into your smoothie that's got a little bit of fruit, a little bit of veg, some nuts and seeds in there as well. Or if you're a porridge person, okay, definitely have your oats, but then add in hemp seeds, nut butters, yogurt, fresh fruit. Those are going to make you feel fuller for longer. And I think that makes such a difference. And if you set yourself up that day, the rest of your day is so much easier. And I think so many of us are on these blood sugar level roller coasters.
Yeah.
And that is a big problem for people. And it's really, really hard, I think, once you're on it, to get off it, because you're chasing that energy. You're just in this constant chase. And actually, that's not a way to live. We should eat and then live life, enjoy it, and then come back and eat again, rather than be constantly thinking about like snacking, what's next, when you're going to eat again. So I think, yeah, balancing your plate and the kind of blood sugar levels and adding protein in the morning is a big thing that everyone can do and makes such a difference.
Yeah.
But I mean, we could go into so many different areas.
I mean, and I think the details of this matters. And this is something I've been learning a lot more about, especially like there's a book I read, I think it's Glucose Revolution or something like that.
The Glucose Goddess.
She's
great,
right?
Yeah.
And I didn't realize the impact of, say, the order of eating and adding vinegars into your meals, how that actually impacts how your body kind of reacts to, is it to insulin or so?
Exactly, yeah.
And a lot of people are struggling with weight and food addiction and these crashes and not feeling great. But it's because they haven't really been taught how to use food to help them. So why do you think, one, people kind of may struggle with kind of building that kind of healthy food routine and what that looks like? And also just that education piece isn't necessarily out there in the way it should be.
Yeah. Okay. So should we start with why people struggle?
Let's do first. Why do they struggle? Yeah.
I think a lot of it is habit. So people get in the habit of having the croissant en route to. I mean, I love croissants.
That's my dream breakfast, a croissant in the morning.
It is. It definitely is. And you know what? There are times to have that 100% and enjoy it. And I love, panerosa, croissant. Yeah, I'm all about French patisserie. But you have to also have that conscious mind to know that it is probably means that you might be craving something at 11, and also to kind of make sure that you're getting back and eating a more balanced meal at lunchtime. So I think it's having that awareness. I think it's habit. I think it's mindset as well. I think people are really hard on themselves, and people can be really like tough. They're like, oh, I'm an idiot. I did this. Like, that's wrong. And I just don't believe in that. I don't think if you eat a croissant, you should beat yourself up. Enjoy it. Have a really good time. Savor every mouthful and crack on with your life. Like, I think we often get into this perpetual cycle of like shaming ourselves and being unkind to ourselves, when really we're doing the best we can, and it is about balance and it's not about perfection. But I would say what I said before, starting with that protein in the morning makes such a difference. Having a bit of education around sugar in food. I think a lot of people might pick up a healthy energy bar and not realize that there's like maybe 20 grams of sugar in it. Like, you know, even though these dried fruits and other things have got fiber in them and they are good for us in some ways, they are a massive, massive load of sugar going into our body. And even though the fiber does slow down the sugar release, it still is a big, big spike of sugar.
Why is sugar so bad? Like, what's the reason? And is sugar bad?
Not in small doses, but I think unfortunately we eat really sweet things. Do you know what I mean? Like, our levels are so high. Like, you know, when you like eat sweets and like Haribos and stuff like that, like that's like our barometer, you know what I mean? And that's like pure sugar. Whereas, you know, a little dusting here or a little bit of sweetness here is fine. And I think, like the glucose goddess says, it's about the order of eating. So if you want to eat your ice cream, your cake, whatever it is, the best way to do it is at the end of a meal. And that is because you've added in, hopefully, your healthy proteins, fats, carbohydrates, and that's going to slow down that spike. And the other thing, again, that she talks about is exercising after. So if you go get your delicious gelato, have a walk after, a bit like you would when you're in Europe, and that's how they do it, you know, have a gelato, go for a walk.
Okay.
That also reduces the blood sugar level spike. And I guess why we need to be conscious of sugar is there's many different factors. I guess one is diabetes, which is on the rise. You know, it's something that we can manage with our diet and lifestyle. And then the other one is inflammation. It causes a lot of inflammation. Inflammation is often one of the benchmarks and the kind of beginnings of a lot of diseases. It's also mood as well. It really affects your mood. It kind of brings you up, it drops you down. And then that impacts your life, in your relationships, in your energy, how you show up at work. And then I guess it's also weight gain as well, because if we have an excess amount of sugar in our bloodstream, it gets stored as fat. So it depends, you know, it's really interesting. Like, everyone's motivated in different ways.
Yeah.
So one person's listening to this being like, I don't want to get diabetes. And one person's listening to this like, I don't want to put on weight. And one person's listening like, I want to feel good. And that's the really interesting thing about my job, my career, is I think I'm so motivated how I feel.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, you know, I do also want to look good, and I also don't want to get diseases, but probably my primary focus is I want to feel really good every day. So I probably talk a lot about that, and I don't really talk a lot about like weight loss or other things. That's not really my it's not my passion.
Sure.
And there's a lot of other people doing that.
Yeah.
And that's fine, and people can go and listen to them. But I realise that that's probably more motivating for a lot of people. But it's not my passion, and it's not, I'm happy to talk about it, but it's not something that I think about or, you know, dive deep into in my life. Yeah.
I do think though that in the world of social media, and even just existing as a woman, I think there's a lot of pressure around how we look. And actually, when people are thinking about diet, first and foremost, they're thinking about, how am I going to lose some pounds?
Yeah.
And then the result is, I actually feel better if they're doing it the right way.
100%.
Versus like that may not be their biggest priority, depending, again, as you said, depending on who you're talking to.
100%.
But nowadays there are options, you know, such as Ozempic and these other medications that have come out that is a shortcut to supposedly slimness that people are after, but also it's a shortcut to slimness. What would you say your thoughts are around the medicalized options out there?
It's such a tricky one, isn't it? Because it is hard. And like, for some people, they will change their diet and they will have the body that they want and feel the way they feel. It doesn't work for everyone, because not one diet fits all, and there can often be other medical things going on. Maybe they've got a really sluggish thyroid, which is a big part of your metabolism, your thyroid. It might be that they've got, you know, another underlying condition that people don't know about, and you know, so you know, you might be trying all these different things and it's not working. I don't know enough about the drug to know. I guess we all don't know, right? It's new.
Exactly.
And I guess, unfortunately, with drugs, they come with side effects. And that's probably why often people like taking more holistic view, because sure, you can exercise and maybe sprain your ankle, but you're maybe not going to be having like depression and all these other things that come along with often these medications. I get why people take them. I don't judge anyone for what they want to do, because I think we're all motivated and we want different things. I hope that they have tried lots of different things before that is their final kind of option, because I think there are so many things that we can do. But I guess, unfortunately, we live in a place where it's really hard to get a GP appointment. It's really hard to get your bloods done unless you go privately, which costs a huge amount of money. So it is quite hard to actually get to the bottom of what's going on in your body
100%.
because you might have digestive problems, but it could be something completely different, you know, and it's not always like really, really simple. Like I've got a headache, I'm dehydrated. It can have all these different things. So I would never promote the drug. I hope you'd never see me in 2 years being their ambassador.
Hey, you never know what happens with the research though. Yeah. And actually, even that getting the bloods done, as a woman, I battle with kind of hormonal fluctuations, and I've had to learn a lot more about how my body works in my cycle. Yeah. And I went to go, I think I did go to like a women's clinic, and I had to do this like urine test, and it was like 30 days of like tracking it in the morning. And I was like, I couldn't do it. I wasn't able to kind of follow through and, you know, do it so I could get the right medicine for something, whatever. And I was just like, I can't commit to this as an option for me to try and understand my body more. Why is it so difficult in terms of the medical industry to get insights into what maybe our bodies may be needing? Because you mentioned blood tests, and I feel like if we all did blood tests more regularly, I think we could probably align our lifestyle, our diet to things that we actually need. But it's a lot of effort.
Yeah, but I always think, you know, blood banks, we all need to give blood. This is an important thing. Why not reward people by getting a blood test? Like you get a full blood analysis done. Think how many people will be showing up.
I've never even thought about that. I've never thought.
That's my new campaign.
I'm going to give blood and then I'm going to get a blood test. Like,
No, as in like, that's your like, or like maybe you have to give it 10 times and then you get a full blood analysis or something like that. I reckon that'd be a good motivation. I'd be up for
Potentially, depending on who you're speaking to. Is it something that you found like value in, and you found certain markers that have been valuable for you, or even clients that you've worked with?
Definitely. It's something that I actually have done a while ago, and I did last year, and it's really interesting to kind of, I mean, maybe it's too much information, but I was basically in my cycle spotting before my period, and it was really, I was like, oh, it's not normal, that's not what happens to me. Anyway, kind of went in, did all the tests, and I was deficient in these exact 2B vitamins that promote progesterone. So you want, it's a sign of low progesterone spotting. Not for everyone, for some people. Yeah. And I was low in these 2B vitamins that play a part in keeping your progesterone at a good level. And now I'm not spotting anymore. So it is really, really interesting and amazing to get that specific, because even as someone who's really educated, I wouldn't have maybe got to the bottom of that. I might not have understood that because I didn't have it laid out clearly that you are literally deficient in these two things. And also, you know, I am someone that eats pretty balanced, pretty well all the time, but my body was just deficient, and that might have been because of stress. It might have been just that I'm not absorbing it. Like there's so many different markers. So I am a big fan of getting full bloods done, because especially if you're literally scratching around in the dark and you're like, I don't know what's going on, I'm doing all this right. I do think it is good, but it's not super easy to get done.
I love that story because I have something similar, and maybe we can talk about supplements. But there was a season where I had like reoccurring strep throat. So I had strep throat once, and then I got antibiotics and it cleared, and then like a week later it came back and I got antibiotics, and I went to my GP and I got it again, and then it cleared, and then I got it again, and I went back to my GP and I was like, I need more antibiotics. And I will actually really applaud my GP for saying, something's not right, you've had antibiotics, and I'm going to take your blood and I'm going to do a test. She did a test and she found out that I was low in iron, and she's like, no more antibiotics, start taking iron, like literally from across the counter, and like I didn't get strep throat again. And I couldn't believe that something as simple as having low iron was making me have this like reoccurring issue. And I think a lot of us don't realize the impact of either deficiencies or lack of nutrition or nutrients that we need is having on our diets, on our lives, should I say. Do you believe in the power of supplementation alongside a balanced diet?
I really do, yeah, I am. I know there's a lot of people who are really not into supplements, and I think a lot of people actually in my space as well are all about, you know, everything through food. I think obviously food absorbs in a much easier way into your body than supplements do, because they're more natural, they're kind of broken down in the form. But I think, unfortunately, due to the way our soil has been, you know, overused, due to the fact that we're often shipping a lot of our food from a long way away, the pesticides, the way our food's produced, it's just not as nutritious. So I think it does help, but I think that you shouldn't take any specific vitamins unless you know you are deficient or need them. So I kind of say most people need vitamin D. That's pretty much been proven that most people are deficient in it, because we live a very indoor lifestyle compared to what we should do. So I think most people need vitamin D. Most people need some sort of probiotic, because most people's guts have had a lot of antibiotics, a lot of stress, and we need that for good microbiome. And then I reckon that most people need an omega-3, because again, most people aren't eating enough oily fish, and that's even if you're vegan or you don't eat fish, you can get a plant-based omega-3 these days. So D, probiotic, and then magnesium. That's another one that everyone is deficient in. And that is going to help you with your sleep, with your muscle recovery. It's something that's you can get through food. It's quite a hard one. And you can take that as a supplement. You can rub it onto your body. You can soak in Epsom salt bath, which is going to absorb into your bloodstream. So you can ingest it in whichever way you want. But I think those are like the sort of benchmarks of where everyone is low. And then, of course, there are so many others based on, whether you're trying to get pregnant, whether you're low in iron, you know, whether you're low in particular B vitamins or something like that. But I don't think it's great for people just to randomly take supplements without having a bit of understanding, because often, you know, you might take too many of them, or you might not need that much of it. So I think probably that could be your baseline, and then anything on top would be specifically prescribed or due to a blood test. And I don't know about you, but I'm not a massive fan of the gummies, because I think they're really easy to eat. Yeah. And I think people really easily overdose on them, because you eat one and they're like sweets, right? And then you want to like eat another, and then you've like taken twice your amount, which is often you think, oh, more is better, but actually not always the case.
Is there an adverse effect for having too many supplements?
I mean, most of the time your body will just excrete it, and you know, you see like bright yellowy, but I think, you know, you are potentially putting other things out of balance if you're having too much of one thing. So I think it is probably good to stick to the recommended dose. But you know, it's such a complicated thing, supplements. I think it's such an interesting place, but there's just so many great people out there making so many cool things. And I quite like brands that are really niche. That I think is always quite a good place to start, where they're like making one thing really well, because you know that they're putting all the research into it.
Like Heights that I work with. Well, I'm a big fan of them and an investor, so
amazing. Do you know, I've heard great things and I'd love to try it. They exactly, I like brands like that are just nailing one thing, because that's a great sign, rather than have 70 different products. Because I think you do have to go into a lot of research of absorption, dosage. You want to, you know, and supplements are also expensive. I think that's a big factor. If you're taking a lot of things and you're buying them, let's be honest, monthly, you want to be putting in the right thing. And I reckon it's better to be buying quality rather than just for the sake of it.
So taking it back, obviously we've talked a lot about nutrition, but you have an approach which is all about a holistic perspective, right? So when it comes to your wellness routine, what does that look like? And again, this is your career, but how do everyday people kind of have that routine on a daily basis really quickly?
I think I sort of break it down into move, munch, meditate. So doing some sort of movement, something for your mindset, and then obviously eating well. So I'm a big morning routine person, and I'm a big get up early and get it done. I know I won't want to meditate at 5 p.m. I know I won't want to exercise at 5 p.m., but I will in the morning. So I tend to wake up an hour before my son and go downstairs, and I do either some yoga or Pilates, roll at the mat, maybe about 20-30 minutes, and then I meditate. I do a style of meditation called TM, Transcendental Meditation. I've been doing it for 8 years, and it's a mantra-based meditation. So you repeat a mantra in your mind, and it's all about becoming more conscious, having breaks between thoughts, reducing stress, and it helps me with my sleep, helps me feel more focused, and it's just been part of my life and has really helped me. And then I kind of shower, get ready, make some sort of breakfast, and then everyone else wakes up. And I find that to be really, really crucial for me. And of course, it doesn't always happen every day. And there's some days that I sleep in, and sometimes it's just not the right moment. But that little bit of movement and meditation in the morning really, really helps me. And it's something that I try and translate to other people. And a reason I set up the Glow Space, which has, 20 minutes, 30 minutes yoga and Pilates classes on there. And I don't do TM meditation on there. I just do guided meditations that are 2-3 minute long, because I think that we need to have that 360 holistic approach, because you can eat all the kale, but if you don't have some sort of tool to manage stress, whether that's through movement or meditation, it's quite hard. I think we have to look at it in this 360 approach, and I think most people want to as well. I think once you start hitting the gym, you want to also be looking at your exercise. I think it often all goes hand in hand, because you want to be recovering better, showing up better, and you're sort of well, if I'm doing this, why don't I go all in? So those are the things that I always do for myself. And then I think sleep. So it's sort of the morning and then the evening. Sleep is everything, because if I don't sleep well, I don't want to wake up and get on the mat. If I don't sleep well, I don't really fancy making eggs for breakfast. So I think sleep has been a really interesting one for me. I'm not naturally a good sleeper. I was always a very light sleeper, sort of woke in the night. The biggest game changer for me was leaving my phone downstairs. That has been everyone listening. I know it's so hard because we all are addicted to our phones. But if you can, put your phone to sleep as well. I put my phone down at 8 p.m.
8 p.m. What time would you say you go to bed?
10 p.m.
What time do you wake up?
6, 7.
Ooh, you're getting 8 hours of sleep.
Well, women need 8 to 10 hours of sleep. Men need 6 to 8. So women need much more sleep than men because of our hormones, and this is really important. So I try and not watch TV before bed as well. We know that when we look at blue light in our screens, it stops melatonin being produced. That's our hormone that's going to help us sleep. Oh no, I feel like I'm bumming you out.
Because I know people, my sister in the corner, she falls asleep in front of the TV. That's her sleep trigger. And I think obviously it sounds great, meditate, get 10 hours of sleep. Most of us just don't have the discipline or the routine to do that, but it's so imperative. How do you motivate yourself to kind of stick to that?
I totally get that. Like, I really do. And don't get me wrong, like, I love staying up late watching hours of television.
Yeah.
I love looking at my phone. Like, I'm not into screens or anything. I guess it comes back to, I know that it will make me feel good.
Yeah.
Like, it's literally sounds so stupidly simple, but I battle it in my mind. I'm like, in fact, last night I was watching TV before bed, so not doing my own Vice. And I remember thinking, God, I just love to watch a few more. And I was like, no, like, you know you're going to regret it tomorrow. So I think if you're in a constant battle of regretting staying up late, then maybe it's the moment to change. And it doesn't mean that you won't watch TV or you won't enjoy this. It's just our obsessive need for more and more and more. So I think it's trying to have that thing of being like, I will watch one episode of my favourite show. I'll switch off at 9 p.m. and then I'm going to read a paperback book before I go to bed. And I guess reading has been something that's really helped me, because it's like, well, if you're taking a bit of joy away from your life, which is an extra episode of television or scrolling Instagram, what joy can you put back in? And for me, that's been reading. And I think that's a really good thing, that's like not a screen. You're enjoying the story, you're relaxing, you're winding down before bed. But I think you have to replace it with joy. Mm-hmm. It can't be like, I'm going to take away something I love and then I'm just going to sit in silence for an hour before I go to bed. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like writing out, I must not watch TV over and over or something. So whatever brings you joy, whether that's journaling, sitting down, writing a diary of your day, or, those really lovely, like, positive, like, bedtime journals about what you're grateful for, or what, how your day went, or whether that's reading, or whether that's even just like pottering, like just like get your clothes out for the next day, spend a bit more time on your skincare routine. It might be like do a few stretches, or like whatever makes you happy. Painting, colouring, mindful colouring in, but something that winds you down, because I think we treat ourselves like computers, that we have an off button, and we don't. We actually need to sort of treat ourselves like we do our kids. You read your kids' bedtime story, you tuck them in, you dim the lights, you get them cozy. So I think that's a really good thing to do, to wind yourself down for sleep, because it is about the quality of your sleep. Yeah. And I think often people might be lying in bed for 8 hours, but maybe they're only getting 6. So we need also to not have screens in our room, but also that our rooms are dark. We don't want like lots of different lights on. We want them to be nice and cool as well. That's really important for our bodies for sleep. So maybe get an eye mask, have the window open, or you can have a fan on or something like that to keep it nice and cool in your room. Yeah. Those are really good sleep triggers as well. And also I think we all have different sleep patterns. So I know I get a real second wind after 10:30.
Right.
Like I literally do, like it hits 10:30 and I'm like, whoosh, and I can keep going till 2 a.m.
I get inspiration in the middle of the night, and I'm like, this is the time to do what I can do, because I'm sluggish at the other points in time.
Yeah. And you know what? That's okay. That's your body clock. But I have to get into bed before I get my second wind.
Got it.
So then I will fall asleep then. But if I push through, then I've sort of missed my moment. So I think it's about knowing yourself. Like we all are going to have different moments of like you said, some people are just nighttime people, and that's fine. But I guess you just have to make sure you're sleeping in enough to sort of compensate, or you're having a nap in the day as well. Okay. Because we sleep in like 90-minute cycles. So it's fine to like break your sleep up as well if you want to. But I do think sleep's really, really important. I think we can run off poor sleep for a period of time, and then our body...
Then we start to break down.
Exactly.
Yeah, 100%.
Exactly. It's like our body will allow for it for a period of time, and then it won't. And I really think it's the foundation for health, because I think it just means you're set up for better choices the next day. But it's a complicated subject, and I think it's much easier for me to say that at the period of life I'm in, when you've got a newborn, like that's not an easy time to be doing all these things. So I think you have to sort of, you know, be at ease with the stage of life that you're at.
Yeah. But sleep is definitely one of those building blocks for
100%.
living a better life.
I would say if you want to start somewhere, that's where you'd start, I think, because even like hormones, so like you've got a hunger hormone, ghrelin, that's proven that with lack of sleep, you will have more hunger. So you will be more, like your hormones will make you feel more hungry if you sleep less.
Is that why people maybe nighttime snack as well?
Exactly, yeah.
Wow, okay.
Oh yeah, sorry. It's also good not to eat before bed as well. Sorry, guys. I'm like, and do this and this and this and this.
And to be fair though, there's a lot of information here that I think people, we know.
Oh my God, 100%.
Don't snack at night. We know get to bed on time.
Yeah.
It's all about that kind of execution though. And I think just from listening to you that there's a lot of freedom in actual self-discipline. And sometimes discipline can feel like a bad word, like, oh my gosh, I'm being restricted. But actually, you're giving yourself the opportunity to live a fuller life by creating some boundaries and controls that actually give you more room for what you want later on.
100%. Exactly. It's like you might have to, not scroll as much or not watch as much TV in the evening, but you're probably going to smash that presentation the next day a lot more. You're probably going to have a much more engaging conversation with your girlfriend when you go out to supper with her the next day. And I think those things probably feed you more. And I think, you know, we all want a bit of downtime. We want all a little bit of like trash TV or trash scrolling or whatever. But I think it does have to come with a boundary, because I guess it's, you know, when we were little, you watched your favourite TV show and then it was done.
Yeah.
And that was it, right?
Yeah.
And that was the way we lived. It was like you went, you saw it finished, it was the end. And that's not how it goes. Like you can keep scrolling forever. You can keep binging TV forever. And I think we actually have to instill discipline. Like you said, it's not the word we want to hear, but I don't even know if it's actually just looking after yourself. It's almost a form of self-care, isn't it? Reining it in. How do you... Sorry, I know you're asking questions, but how do you manage social media and that kind of endlessness of it? Do you what's your discipline around it?
To be honest, I recognise the dangers of being on social all the time. Yeah. And though I'm a social media creator, I don't actually use it a lot. I like post and go. And I don't have any notifications. And I do read my messages, but at set times. I try not to read them throughout the day. And I have actually a social media phone and my own phone. So I don't have to feel like I'm constantly consumed. And funny enough, I feel like I'm the person who's on my phone the least compared to my actual social group, because I don't get the same joy out of Instagram that my friends have, because they're actually like looking at it for their actual friends and like connections. And I'm like, oh, that's like my workplace. So I feel quite lucky that I don't have that same level of like addiction to it. But again, it's easy to fall into a spiral when it comes to social. And so just remembering this isn't everything. Turning my phone off, sleep mode is essential for me, and do not disturb. It's something that I try to make a lot of time for.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I feel like I can relate to you in that I see it very much as work as well. And I don't even follow my friends or anything.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, my friends will be like, oh, did you see? And I'm like, no, I didn't see.
But it's weird because it's such a communication tool now. So like people message each other in DMs and send stuff in DMs as actual friends for like building their bond. But I don't do that. So like sometimes I'm out of the loop with my actual social circle because I don't use it in that way that they use it.
Yeah. But isn't it interesting that like, even though it's your career, like, and of course you should clock, like you should maybe look on your Instagram and it's got X amount of hours. But I find it so crazy that someone has a full-time job and then they're clocking 3 hours on Instagram.
Do you know what? TikTok's the worst.
Yeah.
TikTok's the worst. But yeah. And that's maybe a way that people... I see it almost like a new drug. Like some people would have a glass of wine after work, or they might like smoke some weed or something. Or now they use social media as a way of kind of winding down and relaxing their brains. But the fact is it's with them all the time. So they can just do it at any point in time in the day. But they probably don't realize how unhelpful it is for them.
And it's socially acceptable, right? So I went on holiday to Thailand in March. Remember, everywhere I went, just people on the phones. Like literally, it was like every cafe, restaurant. I went down to the beach one day, like jumped in the ocean. Like, I absolutely love being in the sea. And this beautiful girl, I mean, she was like something out of like the catwalk model, like just stunning. Walked down to the beach. She sets up a tripod. She rolls out her towel. About 10 minutes, she's like posing, like smile, smile, shot. And then she shuts off her camera, like looks really miserable and just walks off. And I remember just feeling so sad. It was like the most beautiful beach you'd ever seen. And like that is kind of, if anyone else was watching her, they would have been like, she had the best time at the beach.
Yeah.
What an awesome, it was the beautiful day. I bet she had the best time. And it is really sad because like I was like, I don't really post when I go on holiday. I was completely offline, you know, look like a ragamuffin in the ocean.
I have those moments. I know it well.
And I really, something really hit me there where I was like, you've got to live properly. And that's not to say, you know, there's anything wrong with what she was doing. But I think it's like, take the photo, get the moment, get the shot, look beautiful, but then jump in the ocean and get messy and get that sand on your skin. And, you know, because I think holidays and life and weekends have blurred, right?
100%.
Like there is no off button for anyone now. And I think that's a really, really strange concept that like holidays are about getting content, weekends are about getting content, evenings are about getting content.
So you know what it is though? I've realized, having gone away with like some of my friends and my like who are a bit younger, they actually get the enjoyment. The fun is from posting it and then their friends watching it or liking it. So the moment isn't important. Okay. It's actually like they get the dopamine hit from, oh, that person saw my story. Yeah. So like they're doing the stuff just for the reaction, which is completely different to like, maybe I'd say back in the day, we'd want to be on holiday and we're enjoying that jumping in the sea. Yeah. They're enjoying somebody seeing the picture of them jumping in the sea. It's almost changed entirely.
But is that okay? Or is that just the new, is that me, like, you know, is that and fine, is that just as good enough reason to feel happy? I don't know.
I think that this is something we're going to find out the answers to later in time.
You're right. Like, we have to have enough evidence.
Really
we have to have
what
years.
Happens.
Yeah.
Like, actually, is that dopamine hit of socially people liking what you're doing, is that enough to fulfill you in life, right? Like, people get fulfillment from getting more likes on their pictures versus not. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah,
time will tell.
We will. It's such a interesting thing because I feel like I'm in the industry, but I'm just so not in it.
Yeah. No, I feel exactly the same way. Like, or maybe it's just because I'm getting on a bit. I'm like, have a good time, and they're like, I need to take pictures. I'm like, wow, okay. Like feeling that pressure to like post it out. Then maybe like 10 people like watched it, but they're happy enough. I'm like,
yeah,
okay,
because it's the 10 specific people, right?
Exactly,
it's the specific people.
So you're an author and you've actually released 3 books at this point in time, which is a great feat and is actually quite difficult in this world of social media. How did that process go for you? And that also makes you a businesswoman as well. So do you want to share a bit more about that journey?
Yeah. So when I first started my food blog, I got introduced to my manager, my now manager. She was a family friend and she was kind of leaving a big agency. She was setting up on her own. And I think she had seen that there was this new form of sort of digital talent that was coming. And she came to me and she was like, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? Would you like to write a cookbook? And I was like, that's what Jamie Oliver does. Like, that's not what I'm going to do. Like, I genuinely was like, did not think that was something I would ever do. But she kind of encouraged me, sort of made me feel quite confident. We put a book proposal together. And I remember it so well. We made this like video, and it's like me in my mum's garden, like picking mint, and I'm in like a felt fedora and trying to look so cool. And a lot of people said no, and one person said yes. And that was Hachette, and did my first book and all my 3 books with them. And it was amazing. Like, I guess my editor saw something in me. There was obviously a big rise of this new wave of kind of healthy living, and I think people were really interested in it. And I guess it was a new thing where you'd already built an audience, whereas before it was probably like you had to own a restaurant or be on television or something. And I guess this was this new movement of you've built your audience and then you're selling to them. And yeah, so I had my first book in 2015, then second 2016, then 2017. So it was quite fast, all back to back.
That's very fast.
It was, yeah. It was big because you sort of had to write 100 plus recipes. You'd have to test them all. Then you would send them through, and they would be like, "Oh, we need more of these recipes," or like this. And it was quite full on, but it was so fun. And I went on like, book tours and met really amazing people, and I think I loved that like interaction of hearing like what people liked, what they needed, where they were struggling. And even like with my supper clubs, I did lots of events at the very beginning. I think that really helped me understand people and kind of gauge what they want. Even like my second book, which was divided into like fast weeks and slow weekends, so midweek meals all under 30 minutes, and then the weekends were like for your kind of roasts or things that sort of took plus 30 minutes. And I think that really came from hearing people saying, I love healthy eating, but time is a real problem, or these sorts of things. And yeah, I was quite dyslexic. Well, I am dyslexic at school, and like I remember my English teacher, I did English for A level, and she was like, "You're never going to get higher than a C, like your spelling's so bad."
I can relate, yeah.
And, I actually got an A, so whatever. Because it's only like 10% of spelling, so you just knock off the 10% and then you just got to crack on with the rest. And I think it was a real moment of self-belief for me, creating something like that, to be, just to feel like I had created something tangible. I feel a lot of like pride and from it, and I remember really trying to make sure I really soaked in the moment, because it's so easy to be like next, go, and not enjoy what you have in front of you. So that was really a special time, and something that I like really enjoyed, but it was really full on. And I think when you're like just producing, as like content, sometimes it can feel quite overwhelming. But it was amazing, and I feel very grateful.
Did you feel the pressure of the industry kind of changing from blogging to video to Instagram, and again kind of it becoming a lot more saturated with lots of advice and lots of information out there, and feeling like you had to keep up?
Definitely, I guess, things have evolved so much. Like when I guess you first started doing Instagram, it was like you had to post 3 times a day, didn't you? Well, you didn't have to, but that was the thing. And it would be like you had to post like everything, and it was always like really short captions like live life laugh, like hashtag, and like like things have evolved. But I think that's always been a good thing. I think if it hadn't evolved, I would have probably completely lost interest. So I've liked the evolution of like learning to video. I never like really learned how to do videos, and that's something I've learned, learning to edit, learning to do all these things. So I've actually really enjoyed the evolution, because I think it's kept me interested, and I like growing as a person. I guess the industry has changed a lot, and I think it is really interesting, like, when you go to like dinners with brands or something, and people are all like 21 and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, wow. Like, because I think for so long my identity was that I was young. And I was like, well, I'm just really young. And not that I'm really old, but, you know, it's that change of that there are so many more people who are probably a lot hungrier than you are doing what you're doing. But I don't know, I don't seem to get that affected by those sorts of things. I feel like I've got my message, my worth, my individuality. And I remember, interestingly, when I first was thinking about starting my food blog, and I remember speaking to this friend of mine. It was at my leaving party moving from Sydney to France, and I was like, oh, I want to start a food blog, but like it's already been done, because I think there was like one healthy cookbook about that. But of course I thought, well, the book's been written now.
Yeah,
it's done.
yeah.
And I remember him being like, there's only one you, and you will bring something different to the world that no one else can. And I think that really carried me through. And it's something I come back to quite often, because I think probably everyone sits there going, I've got this idea, but it's been done. Or I've got this idea, but someone's already kind of doing it. And then they stop. But actually, like, it's so funny that, let's call it 12 years ago, I actually thought that it'd been done at that point. And now look at like how many thousand cookbooks people are doing the same thing. And it really shows you your mindset is everything, because I was so convinced that it was done. Like, I was like,
for sure.
I was like, it's a lovely woman I know, she's called Lee Holmes, she brought out this great cookbook, and I was like, but she's written it all. Those are all the recipes. There are no more recipes left.
Yeah.
But that, it's so, I think, so anyone listening, I think that's a good thing to like think about, because I think we can get in a state of comparison, but I think there are so many people out there that want to hear your message, get your product, be helped by you in whichever way you want to help them. So that's something that kind of keeps me going.
Yeah. Speaking of recipes, TikTok obviously has a ton of recipes, some good, some bad.
Yeah.
But do you have like a favorite recipe that you've seen like online? You're like, I had to do that. You know, there was the like sriracha, like salmon thing in the microwave. That was like a trending thing. But then that you've seen that you're like, this recipe I love, and some that you're like, this is rubbish.
Oh, a TikTok trend. The one that I was not into, it was maybe a year or a few bats, was like the ice bowl with like pomegranate seeds and fruit. Do you remember that? It was really random. It was like, you got a bottle.
It's fine.
You got a bowl. It was like, I couldn't believe it was a recipe. It was like, get a bowl, put some ice in, and it was like pomegranate seeds, blueberries and raspberries, and then eat it for breakfast.
With the ice in it?
With the
like
ice
crunching
in it.
the ice?
Yeah.
Do you know what? I actually feel like I remember watching Lizzo do that or something.
Yes. It was like, it was like a thing, but like, I didn't quite get it, because it would be like, when people would be like, step 1, you'd be like,
ice.
Yeah. Step 2, raspberries. So that one I was like, I just didn't get it. Like, I was like, how is this a recipe? But I guess that's just how things go. Do you know what? I do quite like the yogurt bark that everyone's making. Have you seen the yogurt bark?
Yogurt bark?
So you get yogurt, you might add some protein powder in there, or just yogurt. You spread it out onto a baking paper lined tray.
Yeah.
And then you're going to chuck on blueberries, raspberries, lots of nuts and seeds. You could put a bit of grated chocolate on there, a bit of cinnamon or something like that. Then you freeze it, and then you break it, and it's like frozen. Oh my God, what's wrong with me? It's like frozen yogurt bark, and it's really, really delicious.
Sounds really healthy.
So yeah, exactly. It's like a good. Of course, I'm not going to be like, and then the cheese, and then the fried donuts.
Yeah.
That's a good one. But yeah, it's really cool. I love seeing what people are making. I get a lot of inspiration online, eating out. I think people are so creative these days, and I think it's such a cool space to be in.
Yeah. So I'm just going to ask some quick fire fun questions.
Okay.
So what's your biggest food and nutrition ick?
Mayonnaise.
Why mayonnaise?
I just don't like it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's specific. Never have you ever
eaten brie.
What's brie?
What? Brie, the cheese. I don't know why. I'm just in like...
Brie is horrible. I had it and I got food poisoning, so I would not advise it. And what's in your wallet?
Just cards. I've got my business card, my Monzo card. Love a bit of Monzo. I've got my library card. I do love the library. And that's it. Like, I think that's all I've got. Oh, and my driving license as well.
Any coins?
No,
coins.
I'm a cashless, coinless girl, sadly.
Love
yeah.
that. And do you drink coffee?
I don't. Not for a health reason. I'm incredibly caffeine sensitive. Even if I eat too much chocolate, I get heart palpitations.
Right, okay. So if you could go and have a coffee with yourself when you were 20, what would you say to yourself?
I would say be kind to yourself, believe in yourself, be grateful for your youth and, love who you are. And I would say make sure you invest and spend lots of time with your friends because they're so important, and your parents as well. Because I probably am much more appreciative of my parents as I've got older, but maybe less when I was younger.
Understood. I love that. And for the audience who, they want to think about their wellness routine and they want to make a change, what is like one key thing that they could do today after watching this that would enhance their lives and their wellness routine?
I would say get to bed 1 hour earlier. I think that would be the biggest thing that people can do to make all the next changes so much easier. I think, like we talked about before, when you sleep well, you're more likely to get up and exercise. When you sleep well, you're more likely to make that protein-packed breakfast. And I think just giving yourself that extra hour in bed earlier makes such a difference. So yeah, that would be the one thing. Amazing.
All right. Well, I'm going to say thank you for coming on today, Madeleine. Where can people find you?
So you can find me on Instagram at Madeleine_Shaw_. Lots of underscores there.
Love it.
And then I've got my digital platform, theglowspace.co.uk.
Appreciate it. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.